What Asian languages have you studied till now?
So I've been living in Thailand for 5 years, so Thai. I've been translating Chinese, so Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indonesian, and Vietnamese.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I have the same languages. Do you also
Yeah.
have Lao?
I studied it, so about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I probably didn't go to Laos, so have you been to Laos?
Any Burmese or Khmer?
No, Khmer, Paisa Khmer, Kanyomni, Paisa Khmer, Tik Tik.
There's a number of misconceptions.
Yeah,
that has to do with difficulty. I don't think it's a misconception if you say that it's hard to learn to read and write Japanese and Chinese.
Yeah,
That's very challenging. I consider Japanese harder than Chinese,
same here, yeah.
and I can give you a lot of reasons for it. But the Korean Hangul doesn't take that long to
Yeah,
learn.
you can learn that.
I guess
Plan.
going down the line, Thai would be the next challenging to write.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so let's put the writing system aside.
okay.
Now, which grammars do you think are the easiest for, let's say, a European speaker?
Vietnamese, Thai, and
Lao.
Lao, yeah, those are similar. And then, yeah, Chinese and of course, Japanese, Korean would be the hardest, grammatically speaking.
One video I made shows that Vietnamese, Korean, and Japanese, since they all were writing at one time or another, and Japanese still do, it's
Yeah.
in the Chinese ones. In the Chinese characters, they have a lot of shared vocabulary.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you find that useful?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will never, in Vietnamese, I would never learn a word if I didn't know where it came from. If I
Right.
would look at where it came from, usually I would know right away.
Right.
So you're
You can
actually not
remember it that
wasting-
way.
Yeah.
You can guess words.
Yeah, usually guess.
You can guess what the word would be
Mhm.
by knowing the character pronunciation. The only real hard one is Japanese, where we have so many different readings for the
Yeah,
characters.
that was
Yeah.
one annoying aspect.
Mm.
But I think if you really master the characters first, and then you start exploring other languages, it's
Yeah, no,
save a lot of
that's a
time.
big challenge to master the characters.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. I actually started learning Japanese in Poland.
oh yeah,
And so I learned hiragana, katakana, and the rest of the vocabulary I picked up usually written in Romaji, in the Latin alphabet, because it gets kind of boring reading the hiragana, katakana. Now that I've been speaking this language most of my life, 43 years, I became a Japanese citizen, I find it much easier to read with text that has a lot of characters.
Yeah,
kanji.
definitely.
Yeah, it's too slow to read with
Yeah,
hiragana,
yeah, yeah.
katakana.
I
So
agree,
there's that double
completely
there.
agree.
Getting back to the grammar,
Mhm.
so have you noticed that since they don't have tense
Yeah.
in those languages coming down the road from China, right? Vietnamese, Thai, Lao, Indonesian, Malay.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that makes it easier for you to express yourself in those languages? They have the same way of,
I feel when I'm thinking of a concept, yeah. So when I learned Thai, I already spoke Chinese. So yeah, I would always think of it from a Chinese point of view instead
okay,
of
so
English.
Chinese is your first stepping stone?
I learned Korean first, but I would say my Chinese was better when I started Thai.
Right,
But yeah, even when I learned Vietnamese, I would still think in Chinese.
Yeah.
Not only because of the vocabulary, but also because of the grammar.
right, right.
Like I have one example, like sai, the ershung, like sai. But then in Vietnamese, it's like mới,
Yeah.
mới.
Yeah.
And then those are exactly the same, like grammatically speaking, it's like almost the same usage.
Right, right.
So I would
yeah.
think like, always try to think like that from
So everybody, what we're saying is that there are no inflections, meaning verbs don't change in those languages like Chinese all the way down to Indonesia, but they do in Korean and Japanese,
Japanese,
but not per person. There's no conjugation per person. Politeness levels,
Yeah.
aspect, etc. Okay, so a lot of people say that Indonesian, for example, or Malay,
Yeah.
is simple. Do you think so?
I would say, yeah, if we're comparing it to other Asian languages, definitely if you're coming from a Western native language, but yeah, you learn it from a book, but then you'll have the problem when people speak, it'll probably be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
you really, I mean, you have to master, I would say master the more
So
formal
you
version.
study Indonesian and you found it not hard to study.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an age difference here.
Mhm.
So what do you think how that impacted me when I learned Indonesian and Malay?
I
I had to
think it
use
was-
a dictionary.
Yeah.
How do you use a dictionary with Indonesian and
When
Malay?
did you start learning Indonesian?
1981.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
No computers,
No
use a
computers.
dictionary.
but maybe the language wouldn't have changed as much either.
No, but the thing is, they have roots.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the root, you can't look up the word. So
Yeah.
you see it says Balajar and you go to B and it's not there. You see Benghazi, you go to N, it's not
That
there.
is one problem with the
Okay?
formal and informal.
Right,
yeah.
so you have to know it's Ajar and you go to Ajar and everything's under Ajar.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. When you say Chinese,
Mhm.
computers existed?
When I study, yeah, definitely.
So I have to know the radical and the stroke order.
Yeah.
So now it's much easier to learn these languages.
So no excuses. Get out, get go.
Yeah, I mean, really. Let's say that somebody decided they're going to learn what we call in Japanese kanji ken or Hanzi Chuan or East Asian cultural sphere. Okay, any form of Chinese, again, and Vietnamese, Japanese, and Korean. Which one you go for first?
Oh, first, I cannot say Japanese. I feel like that's the hardest.
Yeah.
I would say Chinese. I think people need to think of it as two languages. You have the written form and then the spoken form. And if you think of it like that, and the time you have to invest, it just makes it like easier, right?
Yeah.
If you're thinking about, oh, it's gonna take me so long, well, it's two languages, so they will coalesce after you put enough time into them.
Right.
But that's how I feel. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you can get people who speak Chinese quite well, but they can't read.
yeah, so it's like just
yeah.
put in the time to learn the characters at first, and then all the languages will be easier after.
Yeah, exactly. Because when we're talking about, those four languages that have sign of vocabulary, the sign of vocabulary are based on the combination of characters, usually two.
Yeah.
Can be three in some cases. There's all false cognates.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think some strange ones are for Chinese when they come to Japan and they go to hot springs.
Yeah.
And what do they see? They see female soup and male soup.
Yeah. Tang.
Because tang is that's just you. That's hot water.
OU.
Yeah, it's not the OU. Right. Yeah.
I actually didn't think about that. Yeah.
Or they walk by a post office box and they see cut your hand and the toilet paper. Anyway, I encourage everybody to go out and try these Asian languages.
Yeah.
There's a lot of synergy in the vocabulary amongst those four. And then even Thai. Do you notice how Thai sounds like Cantonese when you say the numbers?
No.
Well,
I don't know Cantonese, but I did. I think you mentioned that the other day.
Okay, but what about Korean? How do you say 20 in Korean?
Isip.
Okay, I say in Thai.
Yeah, isip.
Okay.
Isip song.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of definitely.
Lao, Thai, Vietnamese, and the Chinese language, you have some tones we have to deal with. But
Yeah, you can
they're
do
not
it.
that bad.
Yeah.
And then in Japanese, we have pitch. Okay, but you can get by without knowing how to do the right pitch.
Beginning,
Yeah. And then Korean, no problem.
Korean, pretty easy pronunciation.
And then Indonesian, Malay, very straightforward.
Maybe start with that if you.
Yeah.
That's the starter pack, right?
Yeah.
Okay.